What if a final school project could actually solve a murder? Well, that is exactly what happened when one high school senior decided to look into a 5-year-old cold case that everyone, and I mean everyone, in her small town was convinced was already closed. So let's get into how a simple school assignment unraveled a web of lies so deep someone was willing to kill to keep it all buried. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in the small town of Little Kilton back in 2012. On April 20th, a popular high schooler, Andy Bell, just vanishes. A few days go by, and then her boyfriend, Sal Singh's friends, suddenly change their story, completely revoking his alibi. The very next day, Sal is found dead in the woods. So the police move fast, they name him as Andy's killer, and they close the case. The whole town just accepts this tragic story of murder-suicide. Case closed. Or so they thought. All right, fast forward 5 years. A high school senior, Pippa Fitzalmoby, or Pip as she's called, chooses this very case for her final project. Now, she's not a detective. She's not a journalist. She's just a student who has a hunch that something is deeply wrong here. She goes to Sal's younger brother, Ravi, and says this simple, powerful line that kicks off a chain of events that is going to blow up everything the town thought it knew. So where do you even begin with a case that everybody thinks is solved? Well, for Pip, it all started by pulling on one single loose thread: Sal Singh's alibi. I mean, this was the entire foundation of the police's case against him. But for Pip, it was the one part of the story that just didn't add up. So, according to the official police files, Sal's friends at first gave him a pretty solid alibi. They said, yeah, he was with us all night. But then, on Tuesday the 24th, they go to the police and completely change their tune. They confessed they'd lied. They now claim Sal actually left their house at 10:30 p.m., the exact time Andy was last seen. And just like that, he's the prime suspect with no alibi. But here is the critical detail Pip uncovers, and it's a game changer. The official story had it completely backwards. Sal's friends didn't lie to give him an alibi, they were actually forced to lie to take it away. The truth? Sal was with them until 12:15 in the morning, which gave him a rock-solid alibi for the time Andy disappeared. This changed everything, and it raised a brand new, sinister question. Why would his own friends frame him? Well, Pip found the answer, and it was simple. They were being blackmailed. With Sal's name basically cleared, the entire investigation gets turned on its head. If Sal didn't do it, then who did? Pip's focus had to shift to the only other person at the center of all this: the victim herself. And what she found out was that Andy Bell, the town's perfect, beloved golden girl, was hiding some really dark secrets. Yeah, that image of the perfect victim, it fell apart and fast. Pip learned that Andy was dealing drugs, and not just weed, we're talking Rohypnol, at high school parties. She had engaged in some vicious cyberbullying that absolutely destroyed a classmate's reputation. And, on top of all that, she was leading a double life, secretly seeing an older man and using a burner phone to hide it all. So, all of a sudden, this is no longer a simple case of a relationship gone wrong. Andy had a long list of potential enemies. You've got the classmates she humiliated, her drug contacts, the secret older lover. Every secret Pip uncovered revealed a new suspect with a powerful motive. Her project wasn't just about proving Sal's innocence anymore. Now it was a hunt for a real killer. So as Pip starts following the trail of Andy's secret lover, the investigation takes this absolutely shocking turn. She finally figures out the identity of the older man, and with it comes a horrifying confession from the absolute last person anyone would ever suspect. You're not going to believe this. It was Elliot Ward, Pip's own history teacher. He admits to having a secret relationship with his student, Andy. He confesses that on the night she disappeared, she came to his house, they got into a huge argument, and he pushed her. She fell, she hit her head, and in a moment of just sheer panic, he thought he'd killed her. But his confession didn't stop there. Believing he had to cover up his crime, he lured Sal Singh into the woods, drug him, and suffocated him. He staged the whole scene to look like a suicide and planted Andy's phone and blood on Sal's body to frame him. He was the one who blackmailed Sal's friends into lying. He created the perfect scapegoat. So case closed, right? A teacher's confession, a framed boyfriend, it all fits together perfectly. But there was one massive, gaping hole in Elliot Ward's story. When Andy Bell ran from his house that night, injured and terrified, she was still alive. Just think about that for a second. Elliot Ward murdered an innocent boy, Sal Singh, to cover up a murder that he didn't even commit. This raises the final chilling question of the entire case.
If Elliot didn't kill her, then who did? And what really happened to Andy Bell in her final hours?
So, dazed and bleeding from her head injury, Andy doesn't go for help. No, she goes home. And there, she's met by her younger sister, Becca. Now, Becca had just made a horrifying discovery. She realized it was Andy who had drugged her at a party weeks before, which led to a really traumatic blackout. The confrontation got ugly. When Becca accused her, Andy was just heartless. She laughed in her face. And in a moment of pure rage, Becca pushed her sister. Already weakened by that head injury from Elliot Ward, Andy just collapsed and lost consciousness. And as she lay there on the floor, she began to choke. And her sister, Becca, just stood there and watched. In the end, this was a tragedy with two culprits. One man who murdered an innocent boy to cover up a crime he only thought he'd committed, and a sister who, in one moment of doing nothing, became the second killer. A high school project didn't just solve a cold case, it revealed that sometimes the simplest truths are buried under the most complicated, devastating lies.